We want to welcome Tom Glavine to the show. And, Tom, it's good to have you back on. I know, just like most Braves fans, it was kind of a shock to the system the way we went out in these playoffs. But, you've been on both sides of this, right, where you've had great pitching, you've had great hitting, and for whatever reason, we didn't hit. And Mike and I said this, Tom, it's like nobody had any reason for it. It wasn't like, hey, we weren't hitting at the end of the season. We got into a short series and weren't able to hit. Do you have an answer?
No. I mean, look, I don't think the layoff helps anything. Obviously, I mean, having said that, I'd rather win my division and have the layoff than have to win an extra series. But I don't think that helped anything. And then the thing you have to remember too is, you've got to give some credit to the guys who were throwing the ball against them. Zach Wheeler threw the ball well. Nola threw the ball well. Ranger Suarez threw the ball well. Their bullpen did good. So, I mean, that's part of the postseason too, right? We talk about how difficult it is because, from a pitching standpoint, guys they're battling. They're not giving at-bats away. Pitchers are bearing down on every pitch. And I think it's the old adage we hear all the time, right? Good pitching beats good hitting most of the time. And I think that the Phillies threw the ball well. That coupled with, I think the layoff for some of those guys, they weren't able to kind of refine themselves. And, look, we could be having a different conversation today, too, if, the center fielder doesn't make that play against Ronald against the wall. So all those things did not go the Braves' way. And that's usually the case when you don't win a series.
Tom, we talk about like all the metrics now in baseball, which I don't know, wears me out, but there's no real metric for clutch. And it just seems like this Phillies team looks like the Braves did in 21. Right? It's hard to define it. They just got when things are cooking and swagger. And let me bring it back. The first game one, did you have an issue with the lineup tweak? Because I know as a Hall of Famer, sometimes guys are into routines. I know in 21, Snicker moved guys up and down like Soler and Rosario in the lineup. Do you think that affected those guys in the first one?
I don't think so. I mean, listen, I think it's the kind of thing that, it certainly provides conversation when it didn't go well, right? Because that's where everybody talks about, well, geez, why did Snit do that? Well, if he did it and it worked great, then we'd all be talking about what a genius he was. But, I don't think for most guys, I don't think it really matters where they hit. It really doesn't. Now, having said that, yeah, I think baseball players are probably more creatures of habit than any other profession. So, there is some of that too. But I think by and large, guys it doesn't matter where they hit. They have to hit wherever they are in the lineup. I just think it was one of those things that unfortunately it didn't pay off, and it just provided a whole lot of conversation, or at least fodder for conversation for everybody, right? Because it didn't really do anything. But no, I mean, look, the Braves, again, we talk about it all the time, right? When you lose a series, and I've said this so many times, when I look back over my career and I look at the World Series we lost versus the one that we won, it really boils down to a couple of plays here and there that you either make or you don't. And it's either a key defensive play, a key hit, or a key pitch. And those few things are the difference. And a lot of times it's a razor-thin thing. It's not like you just went out there and got trampled on or whatever. It's, man, if like I was saying, if that ball that Ronald hit falls in, we're talking about a different thing. If, you make another play somewhere, you get another clutch base hit, then it's probably a different series. But, unfortunately, when you lose, that's the case. And when you win, the guys on the other side that beat you, they're doing those things. They're doing those clutch things. Bryce Harper seems to have found something in October. Castellanos has been on fire. So, I mean, that's the danger in a short series, right? It's not over 162 games. The best team's going to win.
Tom,
in a short series, it's not always that way.
Yeah, and talking about those guys, I just want to get your opinion on this. Tom Glavine, guys, Hall of Famer, you won over 300 games, Cy Young Award winner, World Series winner. Your approach in the playoffs, because I'm screaming, let's not pitch to these guys, right? The guys you just talked about, I'm like, let's not pitch to them. What was your approach when you faced guys that were hot like that in the postseason? And then what did you do or try to do differently to pitch those guys?
Well, look, when you got a guy that's just on fire, then you do everything you can not to let him beat you, right? And I think that's a good plan per se, but it doesn't always work out that way, right? I mean, you would love to have a situation where you face him with 2 outs and nobody on, and if he hits a solo home run, so what? Or if you face him and there's guys on base, you got a base open, you can pitch around them and pitch to somebody else, right? Now in I don't know, I shouldn't say in fairness, but I think that's a part of today's game that I think has gone away a little bit, right? Because so many of these guys are stuffed guys that I'm not sure if you said to somebody, hey, pitch around this guy, give him some things maybe that are close and try to get him to chase, but don't give him anything to hit. I'm not sure a lot of guys are good enough to do that today with the nature of pitching, where it's just mostly stuff, and you're not pitching the spots like I did and other guys, right? I mean, that's kind of the downside of being a velocity guy, is that you're not a location guy. So, I think it's one of those things that you try to do it, but it doesn't always go that way. And sometimes you have to give credit to the guys who are hitting, right? Bryce Harper, give him some credit, because he's not getting a lot of pitches to hit. But when he does get one, he's not missing it.
Nope. It is Hall of Famer Tom Glavine with us, guys, on the WaitFor.com hotline, and Braves broadcasters. Well, great job this season. Love you when you're on with Brandon and the dudes. Tom, the other thing is the pitching. Ever since this run has gone down, it just seems like we're kind of banking on guys from Gwinnett going back and forth, maybe picking somebody up at the trade deadline. Would you like to see this team maybe invest in some frontline starting pitching so it's not a concern? I know we didn't hit, but we also had to roll out an elder that was struggling in game 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's again, it kind of gets back to that same thing, right? As you sit here and you look at the Braves and you say, man, maybe they go get a frontline starting pitcher or whatever. Well, guess what? Every team in baseball probably is trying to do the same thing. So, the Braves are not one of those teams that is just going to go out there most of the time and open their wallet hugely for somebody. They're going to try and develop from within, or they're going to try and get that guy that maybe is, not demanding the huge payroll, but a guy they think that they can kind of mold and make him a big part of their rotation. I mean, you look what Charlie Morton's done, and, so I think situations like that are more suitable for the Braves. But, listen, I think this team had more than enough, obviously, to win. Just unfortunately, I think, again, you look at so many aspects of this team, right? And so much of this team all year long, it was odd to talk about for me, because so many of my teams were built around pitching, right? And this team was clearly built around hitting, and it was historic hitting. And then what's the thing that lets them down in the postseason? They're hitting. I mean, who would have thought that, right? But I mean, again, on the one hand, that's the thing that makes the playoffs so crazy and exciting. On the other hand, when you're on the short side of it, it's what drives you crazy.
Tom, not to be in your pocket, you made some good coin when you were playing. There's no doubt. You're one of the top players in the world. But are you astounded by the numbers we're talking about now? I mean, they're even talking about like Shohei Ohtani. He's not even going to be able to pitch. Right. And they're still talking about $400 million. And, I hear these numbers, right? And I'm just like, as a fan, we go, it's crazy. How does it feel as a former player when at one point you were a top dollar guy and then you see what these numbers are now?
It's crazy. I mean, listen, I remember, which I'm sure you guys do too, when A-Rod signed that first, $250 million contract?
Yeah.
Back then we were all saying, oh my God, when is this going to stop? It has to stop, right? And it's just been blown out of the water. I mean, I think to me the crazier part is, look, superstars are always going to get paid, and people can argue whether or not they deserve to get paid what they get paid, but the fact of the matter is they're going to get paid. I shouldn't say what drives me crazy. What astounds me is, you see guys now that are, number 4, number 5 starters in rotations that are, guys that are under 500 in their career and not, maybe pitching 150, 180 innings a year, and they're making $18 million a year. It's like,
crazy.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
But, listen, it's like the union side of me comes out sometimes when you have these conversations, right? If the money wasn't there, they wouldn't be paying guys.
Right.
I just think it is crazy to think about it, and you wonder if or when it's ever going to stop, but it doesn't show signs of slowing down.
By the way, since we haven't had a chance to talk to you since, all the pitch clock, I think the pitch clock worked, the game sped up. He's going to fire some of these umpires. I know that they're doing a better job statistically than they've ever done, but you think they need more accountability with some of these dudes? Some of these strike zones are a little bit ponderous, even in the playoffs.
Listen, you know me. I think every pitch I threw was a strike. So I mean, it depends on which side of the argument you're on, right? But
Right.
I don't know. I mean, listen. They have the grading system for umpires. Is it a perfect system? No, absolutely, it's not. But I just, it's the kind of thing that I just hope. I hope that they don't go to an automated strike zone. To me, that's one area that I just don't want to see baseball go. I loved all the other rule changes. I thought the pitch clock was fantastic. It did exactly what I think baseball wanted it to do. I don't know how much the bigger bases really played into guys running more. I think there was a perception that it did, and quite honestly, maybe the thought of it led guys like Ronald and some other guys to think, oh, I can steal more bases, and then all of a sudden they started having success, and it was like, here we go. So. I don't know how much of it was the bases and how much of it was just the realization that, hey, I can do this and I can do it well, so I'm going to keep doing it. I thought the no shift was great.
Yes.
It brought back, the single was sexy again this year, right?
Yes.
At times you saw teams playing small ball, which was great. So I think all that enhanced the product. But I think by and large the best move was the pitch clock. It just made for a crisper game, and I think that holds people's attention. Listen, it's hard for me to sit down and watch a 9-inning game anymore, but I tell you what, I had a lot better chance doing it this year than I did in previous years because I'm not going to sit there for 3.5 hours and watch it again.
Right on.
Not after all those years you did it. Could you have dealt with the pitch clock? Would it have given you troubles or no? No.
No. I mean, I think for the most part, no. Again, I think there are parts of it that I don't love. I think, and I think most guys have handled it really well, to be perfectly honest with you. I think, my concern was always, especially for young guys, because I was there. I think every young guy that's gotten into the league who's been there, where when guys get on base, your brain starts racing and the game gets going really fast in your mind and you start making bad decisions. And we all get talked to about slow the game down, slow the process in your brain down. And when you got a pitch clock bearing down on you, it's hard to do that. But I thought by and large guys did a pretty good job of doing that. I don't love the 2 throwovers. I don't think that's a great rule, especially like you look at a guy like Max Fried. Max has got a phenomenal pickoff move. Well, that kind of neutralized his pickoff move, knowing that he only had two times to do it, right? And, and if you do it on the third, you better pick him off. So I think little things like that I feel like could be tweaked a little bit. But for the most part, I just thought the pitch clock was fantastic.
Tom Glavine, you're the best, man. We appreciate you joining us. As always, it's great to hear from you. Hope you enjoy the time down this offseason, but we have a lot of work to do with the Braves as far as how they go about their business and what this is going to look like, moving forward. So we appreciate you stopping by.
I'm happy to do it. You guys have a great day and a great winter.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, man. Next time I'll ask about hockey. I'm curious if he thinks his hockey is going to happen here in town. I know one guy to have some tickets on the glass. That'd be him.